Welcome to the Quick Stop F1 podcast. My name is Nyasha and you could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us. We appreciate that because there's some people who do the intro and they don't do the whole thing. But anyway, that's fine. That's neither here nor there. Joining me today is the person that I have probably had to say apologies to most for my attitude towards their takes about Mercedes in March, and everything he said has come true. And I don't like saying that, but it is true. But also, one of my favorite F1 content creators, my brother, and for some of you people out there, I think take that a bit literally. He's not my actual brother, just a brother in that kind of sense. It is Mr. Cameron F1. How's it going?
What is going on, sir? I am here to pod today, Nyasha. We've got some things to talk about, bruv. So without further ado,
yes, let's get into it. Let's get into it. For Tandy Hive, big up Tandy for hosting on her own last week. Really appreciate it. I'll get into what I want about at the end of the pod, but she is out doing music journalist stuff, being the talented person that she is. She's out meeting Pusha T. So luckily for her, I know I'd like to meet Pusha T for sure. Yeah. But unfortunately, that is a privilege only preserved for those who are incredible music journalists. So she'll be back. And yeah, big up Mario and Tasha for the Saturday shows, which have been absolutely incredible. Really enjoyed those. But yeah, look, if you're watching at home, I'll give you guys a round of applause as well, actually. There you go. But if you're watching at home, make sure you give this video a like and a subscribe. We really appreciate that. If you're listening on Spotify, 5-star review. If you're listening at home on Apple, you can also give us a little review on there. And remember, Patreon's there for the ad-free stream. Cam, a Hungarian Grand Prix weekend, sprint weekend, which I actually think for the first time in a while, maybe since Brazil, I'm trying to think, there was a sprint. The Friday and Saturday for me yielded more entertainment than Sunday, which is not, and given that, no, it wasn't Hungary, it's fucking Spa. Given that, I haven't been here, I'm out of step. Given that we were at Spa, longest circuit on the calendar, I believe, and all of the weather conditions. I actually quite enjoyed practice, sprint qualifying, and then obviously the actual, the sprint race and all of that. How did you find everything this weekend?
well, the race was a dud. Nyasha, let's just get that out the way. Nothing happened. There was no friction or stakes or tension to build. We knew who was going to win. The only question that needed answering is how long was it going to take Max Verstappen to get from sixth to first? That was the only sense of uncertainty. Right before then, there was a bit of beef, wasn't there? Which I'm sure we'll get into. George Russell / AKA Osama bin Russell doing things again on track that are worthy of terrorist. That's a bit dodgy there, Nyasha. I want to back George Russell and his thing, but come on, sir, you can't.
Should we just get into it? Because
go for it. Yeah, let's go, bro. Let's go.
Let's just get into it. Let's not beat around the bush. Proverbial. George. I mean, look, I've been a staunch George Russell backer from the start. And the biggest thing that I used to say was that George is, at the end of the day, if people want Valtteri Bottas 2.0 in the Mercedes seat, that isn't going to happen because George is someone, A, that I think is fundamentally a quicker driver, but also B, is someone that's trying to make a name for himself. He's a driver on the up. Valtteri was, I think, someone who'd plateaued at Mercedes, and you could talk about his career now. But George is trying to make a name for himself. He's trying to become when Lewis does eventually retire, he wants to make Mercedes think about the type of driver they get in, and he wants to be the number one driver there. So I've always kind of said we have to take some of the things he does with a pinch of salt, and you can't expect him to just toe. You can't expect him to be a number two driver for right? But
mate,
George in sprint qualifying. I mean,
mate.
If you look, and I just want to give some context to this as well. From what I've seen, right? George was on a lap, right? Lewis was on a warm-up lap. George goes past Lewis, right? Fine. Lewis gets out of the way. George goes past Lewis halfway around the track. For some reason or another, because it does happen twice. For some reason or another, Hamilton then goes past George, but George is slowed down to the point where it's like, oh, he's backed out of this lap. He's going to go again. So Hamilton goes past Russell. In the final chicane, there's a bottleneck, and George takes that opportunity to yet again go past Lewis Hamilton. Which is okay, fine, whatever. They're now running line astern down the straight into the first corner. George locks up to the point where he goes wide at turn one, comes back, blocks Lewis up to Eau Rouge. And then when Lewis tries to pass him, there is a little move to the left, to the right, and it just
Little
basically...
Nyasha. Come on, bro.
Okay, you know what? There's a significant move to the right. And I'm actually...
A death maneuver.
Yeah. There's like 3 or 4 things there that I think are egregious. I'm almost inclined to believe the last one is the most egregious bit. Because
Nyasha.
Like, and I think everyone's talking about going off at turn one and then coming back, but it's fine. You wanna keep your lap, fine, right? You're on the precipice of going out or whatever. You have to get a lap in. I get it. Your teammate is behind you with a massive toe. You can see him in your mirrors. Why are you blocking your teammate? Let him go through, carry on with your lap, stay in his whatever. I don't know. Cam, how did you see the George Russell Lewis incident? And I guess, is this, a watershed moment between the two Mercedes drivers?
Oh, to your last, I certainly hope not, bruv. Because if it gets worse than this, and it has been getting worse gradually, but if it gets worse than what we saw, that move, Nash, I think you're being, I don't know why you're being so kind and diplomatic to George. I know you're a George fan, secretly, discreetly, but George, we need to hold, this is the accountability quick stop F1 podcast today, yeah. Some people need to get held to account.
Okay.
As much as I love George, and everything that you've said about George is on the money. He's a killer of an F1 driver, no pun intended. He comes every race weekend to grab 25 points each and every single time. And I don't hate that, Nyasha. I don't hate that. He's an F1 driver. He's come up through the ranks. What do you expect? He's a born winner, and he's not come there to wipe Lewis Hamilton's bottom or anybody else's. I don't hate that. I don't hate that. I don't even hate the turn one stuff because, again, he's an F1 driver and he's got a lap to set, yeah? So he's gone a little bit wide, but maybe he can potentially still go green. I don't hate that. A tad techie, a tad egregious, but I don't hate that. What I do hate, however, Nash, and this is where we're going to get techie on the accountability, dangerousness. You can't move that way, that late, that aggressively on the straight in front of another driver, let alone your blood teammate, Nyasha. You don't do that. You do not do that because it's dangerous. Gilles Villeneuve at Zolder, way back when it's similar. Those straight line things, when you crash them times, that's when people don't come back. That's when you get serious injury / death. And George Russell needs to have a word with himself, and more to the point, Toto Wolff. I know they put out the PR thing. It wasn't George. It was a communication error. Cool, that's calm. But behind closed doors, yeah, you need to have a conversation with George Russell, a stern one. And there needs to be some home truths told, because Lewis wasn't having that. Lewis was fuming. Mr. like patron saint Lewis Hamilton, who, again, the one thing that Lewis doesn't want to do is curse his younger teammate. You've seen Lewis instantly hand up, tightening his bloody 7-point harness to say, listen, that was very unsafe and unserious what you did there, George. I don't know, Nyasha. I think there's George needs to have it, as brilliant as he is, as brilliant as he will be at some point in the future. But can't have that, bruv. That there is dangerous.
You know, I will say you're not wrong, and you know I'm gonna give you I haven't done this for a minute. What I'm gonna say is this, right? For me, I think it's a sign of a driver who is losing a grip on a position that he felt he once had in the team and in the sport. And we've seen since they bought the big upgrade in Monaco and obviously a couple bits in Silverstone, whether the car's been developed away from him or whatever, he's not able to extract nearly anything as close to what Lewis is able to extract out of it. And I think he's always struggling in qualifying. It's always, do or die. And I think he's feeling the pressure. And when people are put under pressure, you do see their true colours. And honestly, and I don't mean this in a complimentary way, I think he's got a touch of Verstappen about him. When the lights are bright, young Verstappen, let's say. Well, no. Let's say 21. Let's say 2021 Verstappen, right? Up to, because we haven't really seen Verstappen under pressure. But also, you could say Singapore last year, whatever. But to move in the braking zone, I mean, not even in the braking zone, but to do a late move on your teammate on a straight in qualifying, when your teammate, by the way, was the fastest person in the first round, right? I genuinely think that this is a guy who, you know what, I'll apologize. All the people who used to get at me and they used to say, George is a snake, George is this, George is that, and I used to bat it away. I did. Because I didn't see it. But in this very instance, I'm going to say sorry. That is some snaky shit. It's some snaky shit, bro. And you know what, George? I can't back you anymore. I'm sorry. So loud. I can't back you anymore, bro. Until you show me something else. Because it's this season, you look at when was it? Was it Spain? When they came together in practice.
Bro, it's been
again
now.
Communication. What is it? There's a film, I can't remember which film it is, but they're basically there's a government cover-up thing, and they shot down a couple of planes or something. I think it's in Iron Man, and Iron Man shoots over like a bunch of planes, and they're like, "How are we gonna fucking explain this?" And they say, "Just say it's a training exercise." That's Mercedes when they say it's a communication error. It's like a standard line. Trot that out. We'll take it on ourselves. But George has been at fault for some stupid ass shit recently that if it was any other team and driver, I'd be on here lambasting them, giving them absolute hell. And this guy, for me, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. And I you know what? I've got no more for him. And I think until he shows something different, and I think until he realizes the situation he's in and he defers slightly and concentrates on himself and gets himself back into a place he wants to be, then I think we'll see this more and more. I won't lie to you.
Oh, yeah, mate, no doubt about it, Nyasha. You know what, though, Nyasha? I will disagree with you respectfully ever so slightly. Here's where, man, I can't get down with the snake label. He's not being a snake. He's being, Nyasha? He's being George Russell, bruv. Each and every single time. That dude can only be himself. The problem is at the moment, you are right, the development of the car, the design philosophy has moved away from him and towards Lewis ever so slightly. And what that's ultimately led to is him trying to overdrive the ting. He's trying to, whereas normally he's going to maximize his outcome or attempt to at the very least. 25 points is all that he cares about, right? He's trying to ring it just a tad too much, man. And that I think the culmination of that is the dangerous maneuver that we're seeing in that straight. You can't, Mr. Russell, that's not on, bruv. Toto Wolff, you need to have a word. I'm telling you now. Should have had a word long time, but you definitely need to have one now. Definitely need to have one. It's too bad. But hey, I digress, Nyasha.
I mean, look, I think me and you had this conversation. I think I've said this to you a couple of times, in that we really are seeing how much Mercedes miss Niki Lauda at times.
Gosh.
And
I'm the bloody worst, Nyasha.
Well, I mean, we can get into that, but I do think that they were able to maybe have a good cop, bad cop thing where, and Marius made a good point, look at Red Bull, they've got Helmut Marko and Christian Horner, and Christian will never come out and lambast his drivers publicly. I think the first time I saw it really was when Checo crashed. Was it? I think it was when Checo crashed out in Q3 at some point. I think it was Monaco, where Christian Horner was like so annoyed at Checo that he came on Sky and was like, there was no need for that. Like, that is not acceptable. With Mercedes, everything goes through Toto, for better or for worse, right? I look back at 2016. Between him and Nicky, they pretty much rode Nico for the Spa incident where Nico gave Lewis a puncture. I think both of them got read the riot act after Spain. You know, there was a level of like, do you think that Toto Wolff or anyone, because again, Mario made a good point, does George Russell have to mature or learn? On the personal development side, you know, remember there was a comment from Toto after he crashed with Valtteri in Imola 21. And he was like, you know, if he wants to be in his team, he has to be a Formula One driver. But, you know, right now he's driving more Formula Renault or something. So there was that kind of public lambasting, right? So it is there. But do you think that that's, I guess, how do you think that debrief went? And do you think it was sufficient for the crime?
No, I do not think it was sufficient for the crime. Toto Wolff doesn't have that in his locker anymore, does he, Nyasha? What's required? Listen, Toto Wolff is a peacetime leader. That's what he is. In peacetime and consolidation things, he's your guy. But if you're trying to build up a team or recover a team, restore a team to the front of the grid, he doesn't have that in his locker. That's where you need a Christian Horner, you know, the chap that's going to roll up his sleeves and put the proper work in, go over and above, try to maximize advantage always. Like Toto just, you know, let me tell you a story, Nyasha. I watched for the first time the Drive to Survive where they documented Abu Dhabi 21. And at the end of that, if you've watched it, yeah, you'll remember that Toto Wolff said something. Brethren, I had to watch it, man. I don't know what compelled me to. But at the end of it, Toto said something to the effect of, Lewis did everything that he needed to do to win fair, but he had it taken away from him. and nothing could give us more motivation to come back and do over the rest. Cool, tick. You said the right thing, Toto, but where's the action to follow that? Said a second thing, bro. They asked him, have Red Bull got targets on their back next year? You remember he said, no, everybody has targets on their back next year. Fighting words, Toto, but where is the action, sir, to back that up? Because Nyasha, I've not seen it. I haven't seen it for the past 24 months. Nothing but bad decision making. If you're talking about the pit stops, yeah, they just keep flopping it. We've had this Nyasha, this is deja vu settings, right? We had the conversation probably about 12 months ago now. All of the floppings that they just keep doing, their houses and all the pit stops and nonsense, strategies and nonsense. Lewis, bloody patron Saint Lewis Hamilton, as patient and as noble and as graceful as he has been over the past 24 months, even he's starting to lose his mind. Did you hear him in the post race presser? It's just like, I don't know. I don't know what's going on, says Lewis. Fix yourself up, Toto and Mercedes. Ain't good enough, man. And something needs to be done. Not tomorrow, neither, nor next year or next 6 months. Now. It's not good enough, Nyasha.
Look, I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. That reminded me of, don't know why I've just got all the movie references recently, but, in Godfather, when, I think in Godfather 1, he's like, I talked to the lawyer and he's like, you're not a wartime conciliary. That's what I need. That's what my father had. And, right now, that is, if you're thinking about it, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that Christian Horner is in any way Al Pacino's character, Michael.
Say it, Nyasha.
but, we've got Tom the lawyer. And other teams seem to have something. I guess, look, let's get into that, because if I'd had you on this podcast, when I have had you on this podcast, we're in July, August now. So let's say 5 months ago, and we were saying like negative things about Toto Wolff and I guess the Mercedes as a whole, I guess taking out Lewis, and I guess you always do have to kind of take out Lewis, because I actually think Lewis is driving at one of the highest levels I've seen him drive at his whole career. I actually compared this to I want to say 2009, getting a win in that absolute tractor in Hungary, or other years where maybe McLaren weren't the fastest, but he would still be able to get victories out of it. I think the consistency he's shown this year in qualifying and in the race, given the deficiencies the car clearly has been incredible. And I think it's the furthest average gap between, the gap between him and Russell in qualifying was 0.7 of a second. So, that's a lot to stick on your teammate. Especially a teammate who everyone was saying last year, detractors, that, Hamilton couldn't even beat Russell last year. Russell was the future, and I think he's definitely putting manners on him. But anyway, can you feel the tide turning against Toto? We've got a Team LH civil war at the moment. People are vying for airtime on Spaces.
Oh my God.
You know what it feels like? This is what it was at the beginning of
2018.
This is what it was. I'm looking at it and it's exactly the same. We've now got Arsen in, Arsen out, Toto in, Toto out. Soon I'm going to watch SummerSlam on Saturday, and there's going to be someone in the crowd with a sign that says Toto out. How do you perceive the mood change? I guess as someone who was quite early on it and kind of feeling whatever came with that, and then I guess kind of seeing how the consensus, if not completely changed, but is, I guess, definitely changing. on Toto, I guess, at Mercedes.
Nyasha, I'd much rather not be here, man. I've been. You're right. I've been the canary in the mine for ages, and I would have loved to be proven wrong. I want Mercedes. This means a lot, Nyasha. Let's talk about the stakes that we're talking about. Mercedes flopping isn't just Mercedes flopping, right? This is now F1 flopping. People aren't even watching F1, Nyasha. You've seen the numbers in the space. Nobody's interested in this. What, Max Verstappen banging it out every time? This is Michael Schumacher 2004 settings. That's what we're dealing with here. It's more than just Mercedes dropping the ball. They're wasting away Lewis Hamilton's final years in a bloody F1 car. It's bigger than just Mercedes and Brackley and Brixworth, right? This is a humongous issue. Where do I stand on Toto? Let me get this out of the way and devil's advocate for a second. Toto's a genius. He's a business genius. We've talked about the times 10ing of the Mercedes Petronas AMG advertising value. He has done bits. Nobody else was capable of making F1 such a priority at the Mercedes board meetings. Toto did that, and he's absolutely worthy of credit. But just like you've alluded to there, Nyasha, time moves on sometimes, right? 2018 Arsene Wenger settings. That's not to say Arsene Wenger and Toto Wolff weren't geniuses. Once upon a time, they were the Donnies requisite to take forward the organisations Arsenal and Mercedes-Benz forward respectively. I'm not sure you can still say that. I don't think it rings true anymore, Nyasha, I'll be honest with you, but just because of what we're seeing. And I don't want to do the recency bias thing because people, the naysayers out there, Toto Wolff fans will say, hold on, Cameron, what are you talking about? He's an 8-time Constructors champion and you're just judging it on 2 seasons. Fine, that's fine. But the level of mistakes and the consequences of those mistakes have been far too material for far too long. You just take the pit stops as an example. Yeah, I looked at the fastest pit stop.
Yeah, go on, give me that.
Mercedes are nowhere to be seen. Mate, they're nowhere to be seen. Let's look at the 2022 ones. They're nowhere, bruv. They're like 8th in 2022. I'm like, what are we doing? 8th. So 2022 rankings, Red Bull first, McLaren, Ferrari, AlphaTauri in 4th, 5th Alpine, Aston Martin 6th, 7th Williams, 8th Mercedes, only beating Alfa Romeo and Haas. What are we doing? If you look at them this year, we're not even on the fact, like they just record the fastest ones, right? Bahrain, McLaren, Red Bull, McLaren, Ferrari, Red Bull, Alpine. You're not seeing Mercedes on there, Nyasha. And I just think that's unacceptable for the team that we know Mercedes to be. That sort of operational ineptitude and the frequency of it is unacceptable, Nyasha. Just like you said, 2018 Arsene Wenger settings. That's what's going on. Ring out the changes, bruv.
Let me play devil's advocate. So,
let's go.
Christian Horner's getting a lot of praise right now for what is, however you judge the merits of Red Bull's success, basically, based on, the cost cap and the fact that they cheated. No, they didn't cheat. Mercedes were cheated. Well, you could class it as cheating, right? I'm just saying they overspent. People who are detractors would say that is cheating, right? I find it hilarious that if Man City went over FFP, if it gets found, there would be some kind of thing, right? But also they've managed to battle their way out of it the same way Red Bull did.
Exactly.
Right? They had 120 lawyers. Apparently all Red Bull need is Jonathan Wheatley or whatever his name is. But Christian Horner spent 7 years in the wilderness. He was a character in DTS who was essentially a fucking class clown. I would say he was essentially his whole purpose was to be a thorn in Toto's side. Any updates they brought, report it. Any this and that, report it. Whatever, report it. And he was like, I just want to get under Toto's skin. Okay, to varying degrees of success. They did not win a title for 7 years. There were rumors that he was going to get sacked if they didn't win in 2021. Now, the story is, Helmut Marko, I think, came out the other day and was like, oh, we had offers from Ferrari and, you know, we had to pay him the money. I think the negotiations would have been a lot easier for Red Bull if or maybe they might have said, you know what, it's been 7 years, maybe we will let him go. But once they won, it's like, okay, well, now we have to keep him, right? It's been 2 years. And also, like I will just say as well, I've said this time and time again, go back, watch old F1 races, watch Red Bull try every single trick in the book to try, and not trick in the book, every single strategy to try and get like an advantage. They would be preying on luck. There's races where they were on the wrong tire in wet conditions. There were races where they tried 2-3 stops when there was no need, just because, you know, they were just rolling the dice. It all looks very rosy now, but that team were second best, third best for a long time now. Some people could say it was the engine. Renault engines were awful. Some people could say that, you know, if you look at the driver talent they had, Verstappen and Ricciardo were good, but, you know, Verstappen hadn't matured into the driver he is today. Ricciardo, maybe he wasn't championship winning level, whatever, right? I'm just saying. 2 years. We're not even into this. We're in the second year now, right? Second year of Mercedes doldrums in a cost cap era. They've lost personnel. There's obviously had to be restructures. They've kind of arrested the decline a little bit in terms of, you know, they are pretty much, you know, second. I wouldn't say arrested the decline, but the car's not violently porpoising, right? I guess, you know,
Isn't it, Nyasha? I thought it was at Spa. I thought that was the big deal. That's what gave me so much pause for thought.
Well, yeah, okay. Lewis said the bouncing is back. We don't know. Okay, ignore that. Ignore that. I guess what I'm trying to say is, are we not being slightly harsh on Toto when I don't think there were people calling for Christian Horner? The same people who said we need Christian Horner in the team were not saying that when Red Bull could only win at Monaco, pretty much, because the car just didn't have the power to do it. So what says you to that?
Yeah, that's fair. I hear you. There is a recency bias portion that needs to be passed out in this. Absolutely, brother, I agree with you. But my principal point of contention has always been this, bruv. It's not the mistakes, it's the extent of the mistakes and how consequential they are, right? So take this now. Anybody can make a mistake, yeah, as far as the design concept. Even the great one himself, Adrian Newey, once built a McLaren that couldn't even drive because it was too unsafe. Everybody can make a mistake, Nyasha. I get that. What I think is unforgivable though, is the dead decisions and the amount of dead decisions that they're making. So here's what I'm talking about. Case in point. To build a digi car, cool, whatever. You rolled the dice and you gambled and you did the zero pod thing and that didn't work out. But then why are we rocking up 12 months later with that same design concept? That doesn't make sense. Just at a common sense level, Nyasha. Again, I'm not a genius, you get me? I'm a very noddy F1 fan. I can see from a distance that doesn't make sense. Why do you waste away a whole off season developing a concept that ostensibly doesn't work, hasn't worked for 12 months? What, just because you got a cheeky victory in Brazil because Red Bull didn't set up their car properly? How are you not seeing these things? You're at the coal face, on the pit wall, in the garage. How are you not making these these are like GCSE level decisions, Nyasha? This isn't rocket science. So the fact that they keep making these, plus the pit stops, and I know man them will say that, oh, Cameron, you're going on about the pit stops. How? Pit stops is not a long thing, Nyasha. pit stops. Remember last year, Ferrari's pit stops were atrocious. Fred Vasseur came in and said, boom, we're going to drill them. Between this year and next year, this year now, we're going to do 1,000 practice sessions. Now, look at them, they're killing it. This is just like, not rote learn stuff, but you can drill and practice pit stops to where you can get them quicker, yeah?
Also,
Mercedes isn't even doing that.
It's low-hanging fruit. Do you know, like, when you come into... One of the things that, like, as in my kind of line of work outside of this, is one thing we always say is, like, when you come into something or you're doing something, where you can get small wins from low-hanging fruit, you should do that, right? Because at least you've got that kind of there to say, look, this is an improvement, this is an improvement here. And the fans, I think if the fans, even just to placate the fans, just to give yourself a bit more time. And of course, you know, teams shouldn't be beholden to fans. I think if they were, then it would be a very chaotic situation. But I'm not going to lie, everything about Mercedes is just like fucking lazy. I'm actually quite pissed off, sorry. Everything is really lazy. Everything is lazy. The pit stops look lazy. The fucking merch is lazy now. The social media content, they've been overtaken by other teams. Even Aston Martin, you can look at Aston Martin, their shit looks incredible. Our shit looks like it's stuck in 2020. Everything is not good enough, top to bottom. And I think the same thing I've said for so long, they've just ridden on the back of Lewis Hamilton's coattails for far too long. And it's only so long that Lewis and Inshallah is going to get you. But they've tried it. And that wheel has fallen off. It's got a dog car. Next season's massive. Because if they do not improve that car, I don't know. I think the pitchforks will be out for my man still. I'm not going to lie. And
rightfully so, Nyasha, for crying out loud. But let me ask you a question very quickly, Nyasha. If we're talking about appeals and getting in the trenches, tell me what you make of this Lewis Hamilton, Checo Perez incident and the fact that Toto Wolff didn't appeal. Love it or hate it or indifferent, bruv?
I think when people are onto you, they will be onto you.
Fair play.
And I think that, again, low-hanging fruit, it's an easy stick to beat him with. End of the day, Lewis is understeered into a man's side pod. Like, if it was the other, like, let's be real right now, okay? Like, I'm sorry. I love Lewis Hamilton, right? But, like, come on. Like, and the thing is, like, it's not gonna, I get it, right? I get it. Why not just fucking chuck an appeal in, right? I get it. But look at who you're appealing to. Look at precedent. I know some people kind of pointed to Sainz kind of turning in on Piastri at the first corner in the main race. And I did see a screenshot of something else where someone didn't get a penalty for being on the inside and causing an accident. But I think if you're looking at an incident which is not in the first lap or first few corners, I think it's going to be a madness trying to get that overturned. But then again, I don't know, look at Aston Martin. They'll just appeal absolutely everything.
But there you go, Nyasha. Herein lies the problem, brethren. This is the issue. Why do we always have to lay down and just get done over each and every single time? Not that I disagree with you, Nyasha, by the way, in the way that you've characterised the incident. I didn't hate it either way. If Lewis gets a cheeky 5-second penalty, I can see why the stewards, even though they've always got one in the chamber for Lewis, I see why in isolation the stewards did it. I understand. Had they just declared it a racing incident, not bothered to investigate it, said that it was like damp track and all this stuff and taking that into account, I wouldn't have hated that either. The problem is, though, Nash, if I'm going to play devil's advocate and put my Mercedes cap firmly on again, the problem is, each and every single time for millions of Mercedes fans around the world, We're waiting for the time, when Toto Wolff comes out and backs his driver as the bulls that are red do each and every single time. Back your driver, big man, because this has been going on for too long now. You remember all too clear Silverstone, when that Silverstone incident happened, and again, deja vu conversation, Nyasha, that we're having. When Silverstone happened, Christian Horner went out to bat for Max Verstappen. Over the top, clear blue, did not care, did not give a fudge for the ramifications, how far over the line he was stepping, doesn't care. One race later at Monza, Max Verstappen parks his car and Lewis Hamilton said that could have been a life-altering/ending incident. What does Toto Wolff say? Oh, we'll abide by whatever the stewards decide. Not having it, Nyasha. That's long now. The passiveness and the bloody sports etiquette thing, that's for when it's like 2018 and you got the W11 and everything's crisp and your car is faster than it. That's not for now, though. You need to get your elbows out. How about you turn your cap round and get in the face of the flipping race control and the race directors and egg them on? Elbows out time, Toto. Sometimes you need to put in a cheeky protest. Nobody thought Aston's protest was going to get upheld until they went and presented the new evidence that they hadn't considered, which was that they didn't make the decision at a previous Grand Prix. How about that? What about George Russell couple races ago at Baku? Very similar incident, very similar understeering to Max Verstappen, very similar damage in the side pod. No action. That's new evidence. Bring that to them. Put in a protest. Do something. Toto, for once, is exactly what millions of F1 fans and Mercedes fans are saying around the bloody world. Nyasha, come on, man. Come on.
You're right. I tried to, you know what? I hear it. I was wrong. I'm wrong. Because now you pissed me off. Fuck's sake.
Do something, man.
No, you're right.
Think about it. Don't sit there. Do something.
And I think that's the thing. Yeah, I think that's the thing. It's going from, you put it really well there, going from how you are when you're the best team and everything's going for you, whatever, to you're now, fancy what? Oh, okay. No, you've got a nice water bottle. No, that's good. I think, I'm not going to get into it, but yeah. So I think, I think it's one of those things where he is basically not, going back to your point, he's not suitable for, he's not accustomed to being in the trenches and that fighting spirit you've got to have in the trenches, that clawing for every, saying that it's only for a couple of points. We're 1 point behind Alonso in the standings. Lewis has said his priority is the battle for third place. Back your driver. But also, we don't know what discussions have been had with Lewis. Does Lewis even want to appeal? This, that, and the other. I don't know. But I think as a team leader, maybe you put it in. So I do agree with you on that. That is fine. Anything else on Toto Mercedes?
Brethren, just do something for once. Nah, just to extend it. I don't want to do the troops thing and diatribe him overly. Because I do, even as I'm hearing myself, man, I know that I'm being harsh to Toto Wolff. He's a man worthy of respect, a business genius. Mercedes is the house that he built. Let's give that fella some credit from now. But now, it's a different equation, It's a very different skill set that's needed to drag Mercedes Petronas AMG kicking and screaming back to the top. And sadly, Nyasha, for Mercedes fans all around the world, I'm not seeing the requisite minerals from our TP each and every single time. All I'm hearing from is this old English gentleman sport etiquette type thing. Whereas at the other garage, flipping, they're just having a lot. Cristiano would never, he's never giving up not even 1 inch of advantage in the name of sports etiquette and gentlemanly conduct. Behave yourself. That's why they're out there killing it. That's why Max Verstappen's talking about literally Mickey taking at front, talking about, let's go and bang another quicker slap and put in a pit stop training session. They're literally laughing at the rest of it. It's a joke. It is a joke. And again, I'll finally on this, Nyasha, because again, I'm wary that I'm full troops in on Toto Wolff and I didn't want to do that. I'm reminded once again of what this fella was saying in Drive to Survive at Abu Dhabi. We don't need Lewis's title was taken from him, quote, we don't need any more motivation from that. All of these other teams have a target on their back. Where is the underlying action to match that talk, Nyasha? I'm not seeing it. I haven't seen it. There are too many bad decisions being made. So until that fixes, Toto Wolff needs to get fraud checked. I'm sorry. That's just the way. Just the way I feel, Nyasha.
Well, look, there you go. Unfortunately, kind of like in football, you never really want a bad result before the international break, because then you have 2 weeks of just stewing over a loss. In the same way that we have now with Mercedes fans, it is, we've got 3 weeks now until the next race. And just so you know, I won't be watching it. I'm going to be whining my waist at Notting Hill Carnival. You think I'm going to be watching fucking Zandvoort Grand Prix? Get the fuck out of here! Are you mad? You see, Lewis?
This is the problem, bruv.
Yeah.
But this is the problem, though. Because if it was petty, and if Lewis was...
I'm willing to miss races. This is, honestly, actually, even as like a mega fan, actually, no, let me say, since I've started the podcast, obviously this is the 3rd year now of doing the podcast, into the 3rd year. I don't think I've ever missed as many sessions as I have. I don't think I've ever agreed to do as much stuff on weekends as I have. I don't think I've been as... This weekend, I think, was the first weekend that I watched every single session live for a minute, like for a hot second, for one reason or another. Obviously, everyone makes fun of me for being at weddings. I'm old. Okay? My friends are happy. Okay? Leave me alone. But yeah, so I just think it's one of those things where, yeah, no, the sport is. Yeah, I see a lot of people, and look, obviously people who like Verstappen or whatever, or people who this argument of like, oh, look at the midfield racing. People are obsessed with midfield racing. You guys are having a great time. Outside of that, you can't tell me that although there were some sumptuous overtakes between, I know Lando Norris had a couple of good overtakes around the outside, especially when the rain came down. And I think Gasly had a couple of good the Alpines for sure had some great overtakes. Yuki did a really good one. I mean, that is fun, but sport is as much about narratives, and the narratives that it's driven by are the narratives at the top of sport. I think it's disingenuous to say to me, "Oh, look at the midfield battle," when what? Like, no, I don't care. And that doesn't make me a not F1 fan if I'm not interested in Ocon versus fucking Albon, respectfully. So, yeah, we'll see. Shall we just get into Stars and Donkey of let's do of the weekend, and I think we'll be able to cover what we would want to cover. So I guess Star of the weekend for you, we'll have 2 each. Actually, no, we'll have 1 each because we're time. So 1 each.
Fair. Okay, Star. Well, it's between Lewis and Max, right? I'm going to give it to Lewis on this occasion, if only because this dude is. I'm going to keep calling him Patron Saint Hamilton, yeah, because this dude, I don't know how he does it, Nyasha, because I would be losing in that circumstance. I would be absolutely losing my mind. Denied at the very least an attempt at pole. I just, by my teammate, not by Perez or bloody Leclerc or anyone else, by George Russell. Nah, man, I'd be Dracarys right now, Nyasha. I'll be honest, I'd be spitting flames if I were Lewis Hamilton. So just for his 200 level patience at the moment, and what was a brilliant drive as well, by the way. Lewis Hamilton star of the day for me, mate.
Yeah, I mean, Lewis is just... honestly, I just think he's driving at a level which I actually think it's really disrespectful. Crofty even acknowledged it. Pardon me. Crofty even acknowledged it when they trotted out the stat about him and George cumulative over the seasons. And he was like, we mention it because it's so close. And it's like, Lewis has handed George's ass to him for so long now. If they were like trading blows, like the time for that stat has gone. It's finished. Hang it up. It's done. Don't give me. This is wrong with some of you people in F1. You want to give me numbers without context, and I'm not here for it. Okay? Don't try and condescend me with your numbers when they've got no context. Okay? I'm sorry. No one wants to hear a stat about Lewis and George over 2 seasons when this season... Mario, can I have the head-to-head stats for Lewis and George, please? Because it's embarrassing for George. So, for me, he's driving at an incredible level. He's extracting all of this out of a car. He goes on new mediums, sets fastest lap. Look, of course, you're on new mediums, light fuel, you'd expect him to do that, but I like that. I like that from Mercedes. Like, do you know what I mean? This season. I like that from Mercedes. I like the fact that, you know what, yeah, let's go for stuff like that. Let's give Lewis the opportunity to have the feeling of a car at its peak, I guess, is, but...
Still not good enough, Nyasha, is it?
No, it's not good enough.
Back to the same thing each and every single time. Negative Nancy Cameron out here just takes it back to the flipping, the poor equipment that he's just wasting away this dude's career, man. The final years of, man. Sort out Mercedes. It's just it's shaming for the sport as a competition, for Lewis, it's just... Nah, man, they have to sort it out. And you are right to that point, Nyasha, about the context. I was one of those that thought George Russell stood a very good chance of nailing Lewis again. So that's one that I need to eat some humble pie on, because now that Lewis has the rear a little bit more underneath him, he's a class apart, right? There is levels to this.
There's levels to this thing, and the best thing that could have happened to George was Lewis, and look, Lewis wasn't forced into taking experimental setups last year, right? He took that on it himself. And with that came the fact that the car was nowhere near where he wanted it to be, right? That's not on George. George wanted to get the car as finely tuned to his own settings as possible. He was consistent. He did well. I think after Canada or something last year, when they kind of started to hang that up, I think there's been a clear difference in the drivers. I think George is very lucky that Max and Lewis had to share tarmac in Brazil, because I think Lewis would have hounded him. I think Lewis would have hounded him down. If Lewis was able to have all that damage and stay within like a couple of seconds of George, Lewis would have hounded that boy down, and then we would have seen whether Toto would have stepped in and been like, team orders, or Lewis would have passed him, and I would have loved to see the result of that. So, look, I just think Lewis is driving at a level. Obviously Lewis is ahead 75 in qualifying. Obviously, we know in the standings Lewis is ahead as well. So I just think, for me, him, Max obviously is driving whatever, right? He is. Okay, let's touch on Max. 2 seconds.
Go on then, let's go for it. That's right.
Let's touch on Max. I want to ask you a question.
Go.
Is Max Verstappen like... Actually, I'll ask you 2 questions. There's 3 options here. For what we saw. Mario, can I get the gap between Perez and Max? I think it's like 22 seconds, right?
22, yeah.
Is Max Verstappen that good? Is Sergio Perez that bad?
Oh.
Are they driving different cars? And
No.
you can't say a mixture. Which one is it? 22 seconds on your teammate. Starting in 6th. He is in 2nd. He's in 1st by the end of the 1st lap, by the way. He pits first. He undercuts you. And he pits first. 22 seconds.
It's chaos. Oh,
Talk to me.
I think Max is that good. I think Max is that good. Like, listen, the ultimate test of a driver's capability or their upside is how they're doing to their teammate, isn't it? Surely. And you know what, bruv? I'm not going to say it. Sometimes Checo does look like he does masquerade as a donkey. You'd be forgiven as an F1 fan or an aficionado for thinking that Checo Perez doesn't have the requisite minerals to win himself a driver's championship or even to compete for one. But we've seen what Checo's about, Nyasha. Bruv, look, again, Abu Dhabi 21, Drive to Survive. I saw the manners that he put Lewis under for. He cost Lewis the bloody championship with all that defensive mastery. Okay, so he was short-fueled and that car was very light. But it was genius level defensive driving. It just was. He cost Lewis this, but for that, Lewis goes and gets a free pit stop gap between him and Max Verstappen, and it's a very different story. Yeah, so Checo's no slouch. Okay, so he has peaks and troughs, yeah, but fundamentally, nobody's going to tell me that Checo Perez he's not a slouch at all by any means. And you know what, Nyasha, what I'm not having either. I'm not having a tinfoil hat conspiracy nonsense about Red Bull give Checo Perez a different car. I think that's complete and utter nonsense. What we're seeing this year is what we've always seen, or at the very least what we saw last year. Checo Perez gets out the gate early, has a couple decent races around street circuits, because again, as we all know, he's the street circuit king. He's a street fighter around these tracks that need that rear limited focus, those slow hairpins turns, Rascas. He's brilliant around there because he's very gentle and feathers the throttle brilliantly. That is Checo Perez. But after we get out of the street circuit stuff and go back to your Spas and go back to your Silverstone, your proper tracks, none of the pop-ups street circuit business again. You can't cope with Max Verstappen. You can't cope. Front limited tracks, that's just not his. He doesn't have that in his toolbox. It's not him. So I don't believe in Red Bull are developing the car away from Red Bull will develop a fast car and they'll put 2 drivers in there and whichever of them drivers can handle it well, then that's up to them, isn't it? They're never going to develop the car, but that's not Red Bull. Red Bull don't care for that. I think that's not, I don't know. I think that's proper tinfoil hat conspiracy stuff, and I can't engage in it meaningfully, Nyasha, if I'm honest with you.
I don't think he's that guy, bro. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't think he's that guy. I don't.
Bro, Abu Dhabi 21. Abu Dhabi 21.
Look, okay, look.
Tell me
No. One, let me tell you now. You have to fucking strap me to this motherfucking chair and fucking Clockwork Orange style have my fucking eyes open to watch that shit again. Are you mad? Fuck that. Number 2. Mario put in a quote, and I think this is some. You know what? Yeah, what we're watching is everything we saw with Lewis at Mercedes. Now, you might ask when he was with Bottas. So you might be saying to me, do I not think Lewis is that guy? Actually, you know what this race reminded me of? There was a race, I think it was like Portimao in 2020, where Lewis had, I can't remember if there was like an incident on the first corner or whatever, but Lewis was like ended up behind Bottas, maybe in like third or fourth. And it was in like mixed conditions. Like it wasn't like great conditions, whatever. Or it was just like an overcast day. I can't remember. But he basically, once he got into clean air, he hunted Bottas down, passed him, and still finished like a shitload ahead of him. Like it was ridiculous. And I remember watching that race and thinking, fuck me. Lewis is putting
Levels,
manners.
different
Lewis
level.
putting manners and bodies. So I know I said it can't be a mix. I don't doubt right now. You'll never hear me say Max Verstappen is not a quick driver. He's not a good driver, whatever. Right? I'm past saying that. I think what I do think he's got is a very quick car, a ridiculously quick car that he is at one with, whatever. Checo Perez cannot say, and I will repeat this to you. I'm not saying none, but few drivers on the current grid could beat Verstappen with the same car. 90% of the drivers would sink next to Verstappen. You are sinking, bro. You are like me in the open water jumping off a yacht. Sink it. Mother, I cannot believe you've come out with that at the beginning of the season. Fucking Helmut Marko came out and said getting second, that's like a victory for Perez. That's embarrassing. I can't have that, bro. That's not elite mentality. Yeah, he's good when he's playing second fiddle and he gets to drive on the edge of whatever. It's crazy. I've seen him defend more against Lewis Hamilton than he has against someone he's fighting the title for. He wasn't even in the title fight. And he's defending like he's willing to put his car on the line. I've not seen him have one battle with Max where he's like, it's yield or crash. But he's willing to send my driver into the wall if necessary. Get the fuck out of it, bro. Oh. He's not that guy. Oh. If Bottas was coming out with these quotes right now, he would be getting slaughtered. There's not enough pressure on my man to lose his seat. I'm sorry. What we saw in Spa Cam, 22 seconds on his head top. He didn't even go. No,
Cam, it's mad. It's mad. But this is why sometimes, Nyasha, I think it speaks. But this is why I think it speaks more to it. So here's Mario asked a really good question. Why? And this I think speaks to the difference that we keep seeing between Checo and Max, because a lot of these races of late have been changeable conditions races, right? And Max and Lewis are like, it's them and the rest. As far as like feel and like being able to read changeable conditions, being able to seek out the grip on the track, like Lewis and Max, like don't even like it's them and the rest. Checo's halfway right with his stats. It's not 90% though; it's 95%. Because of the other 19 drivers on the grid, only one of them, called Lewis Hamilton, is capable of bringing it to Max in changeable conditions or any other. So he's halfway right, bro. But I'm guarded against saying that Checo's a slouch because he's not. He's not. He's got his weaknesses and the tire.
I think he's got fun. I think he's got
more durable.
I think he's got fundamental weaknesses, Cam. I think he's not a good enough qualifier in the car that he has. I think the fact that, look, it's crazy that no one thought that Perez was going to win. We should have been thinking like this race. Oh my God, Perez is starting in second. He'll be first by whatever that chicane is after Eau Rouge. If he's got that gap to Max, he should be winning that race. No one thought that. That's crazy. He's in the same car. He's in the same. Okay, so then you're saying Max is that good. I'm saying if there was a competence, I don't say competent. Although I will say this, I don't know who they put in that car, other than obviously realistically put in that car. I don't know. The rumors about Alonso, that's not true because they were sent by a fucking AI Twitter bot. People need to stop quoting that Twitter account. Like, it's not real. But, you know, if it's not Alonso, if it's not Hamilton, if it's not Leclerc, let's say, if it's not Norris.
Bruv.
Who's doing it? Who's doing it?
No, Nyasha, let me tell you something, man. Let me tell you something, and I want to make this clear. Take this one to the bank. Anybody not named Lewis Hamilton, you're putting in that Red Bull car, and you're going to see very similar results, Nyasha. I promise you. I don't care if it's Lando Norris. I don't even care if it's Charles Leclerc. As brilliant as both of them are, if you put them in that Red Bull now, Max Verstappen is going to muller them. It's him and it's Lewis Hamilton, and then it's the rest. It's a two-tier in equal machinery. It's a two-tier championship. None of them other dudes on that grid even come close. Now they may get there, Martin Luther King. They may get there with you in the end. They may get there, bruv, but not yet. They need to mature. You've seen Charles Leclerc making all these stupid mistakes. Max Verstappen don't even make hardly any mistakes anymore. And if he does, he just flipping corrects it and drives on like nothing ever happens. You're not going to see him in the wall too tough anymore. Like
he's always had that. He's always had that, though, Max. Like, the way that he can catch a car. I've seen him catch the maddest shit. Like, honestly.
Levels, bruv, dangerously. If you Drive to Survive Abu Dhabi 21, on the last corner, blood, he's doing one of the Sebastian Loeb ones. I couldn't believe it as I was watching it. He's honestly, Nyasha, love him or hate him, that dude is levels. And you know what? If you, again, I know we don't want to talk too extensively about Abu Dhabi 21. I already have. At 2021, if you are in doubt about Max Verstappen's credentials, you only need to go back and have a look at Abu Dhabi at 2021 season entire year. Lewis Hamilton is the GOAT, one of the greatest, conservative estimates at the very least. If you can hang with that dude for 95%, for 50%, sack off that, if you can hang with that dude for 50% of a season, bruv, that's worthy of some credit. Max Verstappen did it for 100% of the season. He hung with one of the greatest peddlers that I've ever seen. And that is worthy of credit, Nyasha. Telling you, bruv, he's not to be met. He's not to be ramped with at all. Telling you.
No, fair. I think that's enough for Verstappen chat. So, my star of the day. You know what, actually? I'm going to say my star of the weekend is Oscar Piastri.
Fair play still.
I really do think we saw a bit of a coming of age. I think you know what? You can feel it. The same way you could feel it when Lewis was getting all those podiums. The same way you could feel it when Vettel won in Monza. When Charles Leclerc was getting these results in a Sauber which should not have been there, you can feel something happening with Oscar. And for him to stick it on Norris in multiple sessions, Norris, who, by the way, Martin Brundle said was handed over the baton by Lewis Hamilton in Silverstone, which I thought was slightly premature.
Bit premature. Got to make a plot line somewhere in this.
You've got to look. They're struggling. So, I just think that you know what, and as well, if you go back and you watch old episodes of this podcast, I think any podcast, everyone was saying if he goes there and he does not perform, people are saying if he could be like a people are saying that, if he's like a couple tenths quicker than Ricciardo, then that's a success. Like, do you know what I mean? It's his first season. He's been out for a year. And this guy, you look at him, you hear him speak, and you would not assume anything about him. But at the end of the day, this is the guy. There's not many people who have won F3 in their first season, won F2 in their first season. I think it was his first season, right? Thank Matt, you just check that. But someone who's had that pedigree, someone who has that pedigree, and you've seen him come in now, and honestly, I don't think I've been this excited about a young driver since. I mean, Norris, but I think probably since I know I did have early Leclerc stocks, so I'm going to say Leclerc just because I remember that Sauber and just thinking like, this kid is clearly outperforming the car. But with Piastri, he's kind of been building, and I think it's scary if he gets even more comfortable in that car. It's scary hours for everyone because that is a talent.
Bro, he's a gangster, bro. He gets ish done. I don't hate Oscar at all. I will say this though. I don't know where you get like to look at him. You don't rate, bro. I like the cut of his jib. You know, he's very stoic, very level-headed. Like never gets too hyper in the car. He's always at this level, and I like that. I will say though, if I'm gonna level some criticism of his performance at Spa-Francorchamps, I will say that he shouldn't have been up the inside of Carlos Sainz into turn
I don't
one.
know.
He shouldn't have been there. Ultimately, the collision is Carlos Sainz's fault. But anyone with a bit of seasoning, a bit of experience knows that
gap's going to close.
You don't put one up the inside of there. Not on lap one. Turn one, that's a bit. I know, lacking experience there. Just a tad.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I think the moment
time and place.
Yeah, I know. I get it. I do get it. But look, we can roll into because my donkey today is Sainz. So, we can just roll into that. I don't think this guy is a Ferrari driver. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't think he is.
Say more.
I don't think Carlos Sainz. Is a. Where would I put him in Ferrari's second drivers? I would put Carlos Sainz below Barrichello and Massa. Maybe just above.
Gosh, the
just above Eddie Irvine.
The disrespect.
That's where I'm putting Sainz. I'm so what? So okay, tell me now. You rate Carlos Sainz higher than Rubens Barrichello?
Rubens Barrichello was a doormat. I can't. Rubens Barrichello, Nyasha.
I'm sorry.
Rubens Barrichello was a doormat. You know what Rubens Barrichello? In fact, the joke is Sergio Checo Perez is giving Rubens Barrichello at the moment, just because half the time Rubens Barrichello, you know, you meant to pick up seconds when Michael's picking up first. Half the time Rubens couldn't even pick up a second in that god tier 2004 Ferrari. That's harsh, Nyasha.
Okay, all right, okay. What I will say is this: Carlos Sainz finds himself in that situation too much for my liking. In a position where if he didn't have to go for that. And he should know as well. From experience, he should know if he's looked over and he's got if you're going to get an Oscar for going for that gap, if you're going to look at that gap there and you're like, oh, wow, I've got a whole fucking corner. I'm like fourth, fifth in this queue and there's no one there. Are you really telling me that no one's going to be on the inside? There's always someone on the apex. Without fail, 3 into 2 does not go. You are number 2. Granted, he didn't have much space because of Lewis. But he went for that move. Yeah. He went for that move and he's locking his tyres way before the exit. His move was more reckless than Oscar. Like, he was not in control. He wasn't in control, Cameron. He wasn't in control. You can't blame a man.
True. I think you're being a bit harsh on Carlos Sainz Jr., brother. I'll be honest, Danny. Comparisons to Rubens Barrichello. I think you're giving Carlos Sainz Jr. the Skip Bayless, LeBron James treatment. I'll be honest with you, bruv. He's not that bad. And I wouldn't even blame him necessarily for the incident, man. As you're approaching the apex, You can't be there if you're Oscar Piastri and you know racing. A bit of inexperience from the Aussie, but fair play, man. Chalk it up to the game, yeah.
All right. I mean, I don't know. For me,
Bailey's Nyasha.
Maybe, but also, how many times am I going to be sat here recording a podcast talking about we are talking about Ferrari here, okay? Ferrari, the most incredible team, like the most historical team, culture team. Like, is Carlos Sainz going to take you to the promised land? No way. No, he's not. He's not. He's not that guy. I'm sorry. Like, he's not. You know where Carlos Sainz do really well? Stick him in. Whenever Audi come through, yeah?
Oh, you're mocking.
Look what he needs. He needs the same thing Valtteri Bottas got. 3-year contract, somewhere with lower expectations.
Oh my God.
Do you think Carlos Sainz is a Ferrari driver?
Bro,
yes or no?
You can't.
Based on this season.
Oh, Nyasha.
Based on this season.
Look,
based on this season.
Carlos can be a Ferrari driver. I'm not saying that he's had a brilliant season or that he doesn't need to improve, Nyasha. But you can't. You know, here's what you've done, Nyasha. I'm gonna put your feet to the fire a little bit. Fresh off the Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen conversation, you're holding everybody to that very high level. You can't hold. Not everybody can be. Well, there's only 2 Max Verstappens and Lewis Hamiltons, right? We'll probably only ever see 2 of them ever. Right? Those are once in a generation drivers, right? That talent you don't see every day. So let's not judge Carlos Sainz Jr. against the brilliance of those 2. You're not going to get, or even his teammate Charles Leclerc, because he's got a different level of gift in terms of his absolute terms pace altogether. But what I'm saying to you, though, he brings his own. He'll probably beat Charles Leclerc again this championship. You know, just because he's got this. He's an overachiever, isn't he, Nyasha? He's going to use a bit of savvy and assertiveness. When a team try and put him on bloody inters and it's wets, he's going to tell them to go and do one. Whereas Charles Leclerc, the noddy driver that he is, the bloody passive chap that the Monegasque is, he's going to go out on the wrong toe. So I think you're being a bit. You're not gauging or judging Carlos Sainz Jr. very holistically. I think you've got a bad bout of recency bias there, sir.
I'm looking at a lot of stuff. I think the evidence that you're saying, I'm not looking at it holistically. I'm just like recency. I'm looking at a season's worth of shit now, respectfully. Like, I get what you're saying. If he was in an AlphaTauri, if he was in a fucking Haas, I don't think I'd be judging him by the standards I'm judging him. The reason why I'm judging Sergio Perez and Carlos Sainz the way that I'm judging them is because they are in the top 3 teams and they're not performing. And we've got a George, and the standards that I hold George Russell to, I should be holding Carlos Sainz to that standard. I should be holding Sergio Perez to that standard. And they're all 3 of them are failing badly. Not for me. I can't have it. I can't. And you know what? I'm always here as well saying Tandy's too harsh on him. Yeah. She's always he'll get 4th and she'll stick him in like donkey today, right? And I'm like, I never really quite understand it. But I don't think anyone's really like. I think it needs to be held to account, and I do think that locking both front brakes into that corner and diving it for the apex, and like it's either he takes out Oscar or he takes out Hamilton. I could see that coming from a mile off what he was going to do. By the way, I knew it. Let's not even talk about Sergio Perez weaving all the way down to the first corner, which is dangerous in itself. But I think Carlos, Mr. Reliable, Mr. Consistent. Fuck is going on here, bro? Like, you could bide your time and then get Lewis later in the race. Charles had the pace to keep Lewis behind him. Anyway,
No, yeah, he has. I hear you, bruv. He's driven like a bit of a virgin still. He's had fits, but then for context, look at this for all his nightmarish first half of the season. He's only 7 points behind his teammate, bruv. I wouldn't back against Carlos Sainz finishing ahead of Charles Leclerc, even with all Charles Leclerc's very obvious qualifying gifts. Very pacey that chap, but I reckon Carlos will beat him, bruv.
Let's come back to that. I think Charles is going to do a 2022 Lewis, and I think we'll see a difference going forward. Now the car is better. I think that's what we'll see. I want to give a shout out to Yuki for getting a point. I think that's great performance from Yuki, and I think a timely one as well, considering what's happened in that team. What was I going to say to you? Donkey of the day.
Mate, without labouring the point, man, like how can I not? I know George didn't have a bad Sunday necessarily, but the whole weekend pretty much he was messy. The bloody nearly causing life-threatening injury on the straight to Lewis notwithstanding, he was messy and going off, and it was just all a bit of an SH1T show from George Russell. Brilliant driver though is he. I suppose that's the level of accountability that I'm holding him to. I expect better from him. To just have an SH1T race weekend is one thing, but to jeopardize the life not just of another driver but your teammate, unacceptable. George, do better, sir. Do better. Donkey of the day. Take it to the bank.
Very agreed. Very much agreed. Do you want to help me read out some tweets from the people? I'm going to send you a link, and you can have a little. Look. Thank you very much. And let's go with. I was going to read someone's specific tweet out because someone said to them that we're not going to read all that. So I'm going to read the whole thing. Okay, so Joey FCB at, I think it's CULE10MCFC. Fuck, Man City fans. I still hurt from last season. He says, yeah, it still hurts. He says his star of the day is GOAT44 and Yuki Tsunoda. Donkey of the day, Crofty. He kept referring to the Williams as a rocket ship. Williams didn't even score a point, blatantly ignored calling the actual rocket ship what it is, though. His topic was, where did Ferrari get pace all of a sudden? And also, I thought Alonso promised podiums. Yeah, since he said that, I don't think he's actually got a podium since he said that we're going to finish on the podium every race, which is
it's not been great, mate. It's not been great. Where has that pace gone, Nyasha? I don't understand.
I said this to you beginning of the season. I said they will. This is as good as it's going to get for Aston Martin. I've never seen Aston Martin or even Force India develop a car over the course of a season. They're a new team. Their resources in terms of factory and this and the other are still coming. You know, half of them were still working out of portal cabins or whatever, like not too long ago. So I just think that they started well, but it was always going to be difficult to keep up with teams who are used to developing cars over the course of a season with far greater experience. And I want to say resources, obviously there's a cost cap, but, you know, resources in terms of equipment. So I think they should be happy with where they are. I think, obviously you shouldn't be happy with going backwards, but I don't know. I'm not surprised by what happens, and I'm very sure that I called it in March, to be honest. So I'm not. It's not really. Are you surprised?
That's a big call. I am surprised, bro. I thought that they'd No, listen, I didn't think that they were going to go on to kill Red Bull so quickly, but I didn't think that their drop off would be so quick. I suppose the rate at which they've dropped off, I'm just like, hold on, you lot were best of the rest a couple of races ago. What's happened to that? I don't understand it, Nyasha. I need to get my deep dive cap on there and try and unpick it. It's intriguing.
Not really. Honestly,
I don't. You just think it's Aston Martin and then they're new, and so that's why they've dropped off. I feel like it might. I think so. I'm more complicated than that, surely, Nash. A bit more nuanced. I don't know, bro.
I mean, maybe
drop off so suddenly just because you're brand new. They were good, like 3 races ago.
Yeah, but like everyone was bad, like bad. Yeah, people were really bad. Mercedes were bad. They had to change their whole concept. Ferrari was so bad.
All right, cool. So let me read out a comment from @Fast Pit Stop Stephanie. Max and GP beefing on the radio is funny, but also shows how boring this season is that they have time for it. Nailed it. I can't hate that. It does show how it's testament to how few plot lines there are in this 2023 season. But you know what? I almost want to wait till Nyasha comes back so I can deep dive this one, because this one is techie. I really enjoyed the back and forth, and I think Giampiero Lambiase I think he needs an award, a Nobel Patience Award or something to that effect, for his ability to push back on Max Verstappen, who at the best of times is a very mercurial character, let's say. I couldn't be his performance engineer or race engineer even, I'll tell you that much, with all his effing and blinding and moaning. But GP does it brilliantly well. I love to see GP managing this chap and pushing back on him. Nyasha, talk to me about that. I've just read out Fast Pit Stop's tweet about Giampiero Lambiase's pushback on Mr. Verstappen.
I don't care. Oh my God.
Nyasha, you're such a Grinch. Stop being a Grinch, man. What else are we going to talk about in this season?
Okay, let me tell you why I don't care.
Go on.
This sport is trying to distract you from the fact that it's gone to the shitter. I honestly don't care. And you know what? I would care if I actually thought they were beefing. They're not beefing. It's just two people who know each other very well, talking to each other about very matter of fact. They've always spoken to each other like this. Yes, if I had to listen to Max Verstappen talk all day, I would be short with him because he's jarring. So why would I for me, all of this shit is just like, honestly, I just can't. What I will say is, yes, it is entertaining. Yes, it is, whatever. If the stuff on track was more entertaining, then this is what, you know what it is? This is just the 2023 version of Bono, my tires are gone. Basically. That's all we're doing now. And also, again, F1 is so self-deprecating in lieu of entertainment and promotion that they're willing to air a man so bored by his own race that he wants to go so fast that it degrades his tyres. He comes in and does an attempt to fastest lap because he's bored out of his nut. And I'm supposed to stand there and be like, oh my God, I love them so much. I can't believe we're talking about it. Shouldn't even be a thing. Next tweet. Sorry, after you though.
Brother, don't hate it, man. No further questions, Your Honour. Go on then, let's get the next one off.
Right, let me get the next tweet up. Right, I didn't actually... Oh, there was actually one I really wanted to read from someone. I'll get it up now. Actually, I want to pick up Marina at XXO Marina, who was at the circuit and met Lewis Hamilton. I think he commented on her jacket, so congratulations to you. Who says star for Lewis taking fastest lap over the rocket ship. Carlos Sainz donkey, and yeah, bouncing back on the W14. So, I mean, do you have anything on the bouncing?
Bro, I mean, we've already covered it, haven't we, Nash? It doesn't bode well. It speaks to regression and not progression. And the fact that, mate, without diatribing again, I don't want to do the troops mode once again, so I'll try and keep it succinct. They don't know, Nasha. They've just rocked up, they've set up the car, and now they've got poor pussing. It's like their knowledge at Mercedes is like fairy dust at the moment. It's just like, we don't know. We're in a dark tunnel without a torch. It's just, we're like trying to throw darts at a bloody dartboard blind. It's random walk theory, Nasha, and it's quite frankly, brother, it's cheesing me off. If there was some sort of method, if there were like iterations, and then we brought another upgrade and saw a little bit more improvement, do you know what I mean? And then it was another step forward. It would be less. It would be more palatable. This pain would be easier to swallow and stomach, because it all feels like 2 step forward, 50 back, poor pussing. What's going on? And then we're fast at the end on light fuel, but we don't know what's. It's SH1T show, Nasha, and jarring, bruv. Quite frankly, jarring.
No worries. Do you have any others you want to read?
I think we covered Oscar. The only one that had more likes was around Oscar versus the car. I think that's more Oscar than the car. The car wasn't fantastic, and they clearly, for race pace at least, had over egged the downforce, right? So for him to go and nearly put it on pole, I think speaks to Oscar being the driving force in that performance, particularly the qualifying performance this weekend. He's not bad. Not bad. Expect good things from Oscar coming soon.
No, for sure. Also, I want to bring up Silky as well, who was there repping Quickstop F1 merch. So yeah, I did forget that. I think I did see it, but then our notifications on weekends are so mental. FYI, Mario tweets at us and I don't see it / ignore it. So if I ignore you, don't take it personally. There's too much to get back to. But we do appreciate it. I will just big up this person called Nicole at Nicole, Nicole Powell, but with 3s instead of E's, who said, I fell asleep on lap 11 and woke up to the Dutch national anthem. That was literally what happened to me. I fell asleep around lap 16, I think, and then woke up. I literally woke up and it was like the cool down lap, and I just like, I woke up, I was just like, what has gone on? But it was the same pretty much. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't miss much. I missed the fastest lap. That was it with it, and but it's a shame. Anyway, look, Cam, thank you so much for coming on. That's been incredible. Did I even put these on for you when we came in? Yeah, thank you for coming on. Where can people find you? I've got how to do this. Oh my god.
Don't be daft, bruv. Cameron F1 YT on Twitter, Cameron F1 on YouTube, and Cameron F1 Live also on YouTube for all sorts of F1 nonsense and shenanigans and hot takes that invariably end up to be incorrect. But I appreciate you, bruv. Thank you for having me on again, man. It's a privilege and an honour, as always, genuinely.
He had to get it in there. Thank you so much, Cam. And if you're looking for, I do think, don't be fooled by people's titles or people's thumbnails or people's whatever. Like, I think, like, Cam, you want like F1 videos which have got really good research, really good editing, a story which runs from start to finish and kind of takes you on a journey and is more than just someone with a microphone narrating over various cuts of a driver looking at a camera or whatever. He's got that, and he's kind of yeah, I really enjoy your videos, Cam. I can see the progression as well. So big up to yourself.
Appreciate you, brother, always, man. It's again just trying to get into Slipstream and activate that DRS on the legend that is Quick Stop F1. I'll be honest, bruv. Tell the truth.
Well, look. To be fair, it's been so nice to be back podcasting. I haven't done this for 2 weeks. It's felt like a lifetime. I had to take a break. I'm not gonna lie. I was burnt out. I was talking to Cam about it. My health was going down the drain. I was just so tired. I didn't think and you know what? It wasn't even fun. I wasn't finding F1 fun anymore. But I am again. So I had a break and I'm happy to be back. I'm so happy to have the team that we've got that can step in and do things when I'm not here. So thank you to the team. Thank you guys for watching at home. If you've enjoyed this, make sure to slap a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, Spotify, 5-star review, Apple, leave a review, Patreon, ad-free streams. We'll be back at some point. Yeah, we'll be back. We'll be back weekly. We're not going to let up during the thing. And I think Mario and Tasha are going to carry on their show, although I don't want to impose on their diary. But that's what they said to me. So that's what I'm going to tell you guys. Oh, they are. So Mario and Tasha are going to have their Saturday night show every Saturday. That is their show, and it's a great show. I'll be back most likely on Monday. Take care, guys. Remember, no matter what life throws at you, keep it on the black stuff. Take care. Look, mate, if you've got this far, clearly you like what we do. So here's a link to subscribe to the Quick Stop F1 family. Give that a click. And here's another link to some more cool on our channel. Sorry, cool stuff. And remember, no matter what happens, keep it on the black stuff. Click the stuff. Click the links. Click the links. Click the links. There. They're there.